almost 2.5 miles, 2.38 miles in length, 16 corners. And I think the biggest part, and it's hard to see really here on iRacing, it's similar when you're trying to watch one of the races on TV as well. You never get a real feel for the elevation changes because literally coming out of turn one, it's a downhill run to turn one, kind of a compression through that left-hand lane. You climb all the way up the hill. What's what they call the Alabama roller coaster. When you come then through turn number 3 down the hill, back up this big climb again and kind of crest the hill for the long downhill run into turn number 5, with Charlotte's Web with the big left-hander there. It's a downhill run, so that means that the braking distance is going to be a bit longer because you've got all that momentum heading downhill. Just a tremendous racetrack, and George Barber, the founder of the track, the builder, the whole team there. The place is absolutely amazing. It's well known as the Augusta National of Motorsports. The grass is absolutely pristine. Motorcycle museum that's there is absolutely epic. If you go to a race at Barber, you have to invest some time going through that motorcycle museum because it's absolutely unreal.
Well, I did want to... Oh, sorry about that, Mark, but did just want to say apologies to the people watching here. We were actually just struggling. Didn't look like we were actually live for everyone there, so we are back, and for everyone who's tuning in now, welcome to Barber Motorsports Park, or virtual Barber Motorsports Park, as Mark likes to say. For the first ever race on the Elite Racing Network, this is the Mega Driver 86 Road to Indy Series, driving these Indy Pro 2000 cars tonight. We've got a stacked field as well as a stacked team here in the booth. I'm joined by Mark Gillespie and Rob Howden. Sorry about that, guys, but we're now fully live. We should be good to go here.
No problem. We'll just treat it as dress rehearsal.
I was going to say that was our own warm-up laps. It felt good. I had to shake it out a little bit, scuff the tires in a bit there. You know what? One of the big things that everyone of us at the Road to Indy is so excited about was, of course, last year when the USF 2000 car and the PM18 Indy Pro 2000 car, came onto the iRacing service because it's such a great connection for us. And for our drivers, we're going to use these particular cars as well in our iRacing E-Series that TireRack.com is sponsoring. We'll have that coming up in a couple of weeks, February 3rd, the first race day for us on that one. So to be able to have these cars here, I think is amazing. And what I love looking at some of these guys that are ex-Road to Indy drivers as well, right? Both R.C. Enerson, Dempsey, and Crone all raced Indy Lights. Josh Green will be moving into his second year in the USF 2000 program, running actually with Peter Dempsey's team, Turn 3 Motorsports. But we said Peter's with us. He won in that 4-wide finish at the Freedom 100 a number of years ago. So this is literally a stacked field for sure.
And then you've got the pros like Robert Wickens as well, and Stephen Wilson, who've run the big cars at Indy.
Yeah, indeed. Both those guys are obviously impressive. I've had the opportunity and lucky with what I do in the karting industry. I was there when Robbie Wickens first started karting up in Canada, 4-cycle racer. I watched him get into an 80cc shifter before moving his way into the Formula BMW USA program. And
whoa, Stephen Wilson off the track there.
And that's not a place we normally have an issue either. That's coming back into the hill at turn 5, I think. Just dropped a wheel. So, listen, even the best guys can struggle here a little bit in iRacing.
Yeah, there's always a learning curve, especially, I mean, just the difference in real life versus iRacing. I think iRacing gets these tracks down to the absolute T. But the cars can definitely be a handful. I've talked to some guys who've made that transition from real world racing over to the sim, and you just don't have that same feel that you normally get in a real race car, and it certainly is a big adjustment to make, and a lot of guys struggle to get up to speed sometimes with how iRacing is. I think famously and one of the most outspoken against the way iRacing was Alexander Rossi in 2020 during the shutdown.
Oh, Alexander Rossi, about an hour and a half ago on my live webcast with Hinch, we were tasting bourbons, and I asked Alex his thoughts about Barber, knowing how much he's loved it in the past. And while he thinks the paving helped a little bit and made it a much better track, he hates iRacing with a passion.
Well, that's very true. There's some guys that just haven't picked it up that well. There's a number of drivers I've talked to. One of them we'll see in the Indy Lights program this year, the 2019 Indy Pro 2000 champion, Kyle Kirkwood. Kyle obviously won a championship with these particular race cars here, running with RP Motorsport USA. And he just said and we laughed. He was thinking about doing the E-Series, but he said, I'm just so bad at it. I don't know what it is. I don't like it that much, and I'm not very good at it. So here's a guy that's won almost everything in his car career, F4, USF 2000, Indy Pro. Just doesn't get a good feel for iRacing. I personally love it, but it's not for everybody, I guess.
And if you're on a Mac, if you're a Mac user like I am, it's a pain in the neck because then you've got to run boot camp and try to run Windows on it because they don't have an iRacing port for the Mac. So it's a native port software for it. So it makes it just hard. It's the reason I don't get to play iRacing is because I just don't have the ability to hook up a rig to my Macs and make it work properly. Now, it looks like we finished up qualifying. Marshall Stanley's still in a hot lap here, but R.C. Anderson's on the pole for the first race. Josh Green, Peter Dempsey. Whoa. Marshall got a little bit loose now. That's more than a little loose.
And that's actually just a brief sight at something that is pretty new to iRacing is this new damage model, and it's pretty extraordinary just how accurately they're able to model the crash damage on some of these cars.
And, Rich, that was the one thing I was really looking forward to. I knew that was coming up in one of their updates, that they were going to change that. Because, again, one of the looks, obviously, of all the iRacing that we did that was on NBC Sports or any of the broadcasts that were out there was the simple fact that the cars would be flipping wildly, right? The change in the crash damage model really has made it much more realistic.
So, Rob, tell me about the car that we're running tonight, the Tatas, I believe. How closely are these modeled on the real car?
Oh, they're incredibly close, and that's the beauty of it. Talking to a lot of the drivers, and I've talked to Greg DeGeorgis from Symmetric Systems, filling me in that the car is unbelievably close to what we run, and it's this car at the second level of the road to Indy. It has the same tub. It's the same as the USF 2000 made by Tatas. It's the same tub. It's just in comparison to the USF 2000, it's more of everything. Like I said, it goes from 170 to 250 horsepower. It's bigger wheels, more brakes, more downforce, just really more everything on this car. For example, at a Road America, I'm not sure exactly what the split is here at Barber, but at a Road America, it's about 6 seconds faster than the USF 2000 car.
Wow.
All right, well, before we get going, we've got the drivers gridding up here, just everyone loading in to the race lobby. Your pole sitter was R.C. Anderson. We do have a little bit of a glitch here with timing and scoring, but it should reset once we reach the green flag. But before we do that, obviously we can't do this kind of stuff that we love to do here without sponsors, and one of the big ones here tonight, one of our premier sponsors in Elite Racing Leagues, and now of the Elite Racing Network, C2 Freight Resources. Just want to talk about them. C2 Freight, they offer complete freight management services. They're ready to meet your needs today as well as your changing needs in the future. With thousands of qualified carriers in their database, they're capable of handling shipping for every type of good, from perishable foods to office equipment. Whatever you need to ship, they have access to the necessary equipment, including flatbeds, double drops, vans, tankers, refrigerated equipment, multi-axle heavy haulers, dump trucks, auto carriers, intermodal containers, and more. Definitely go check out C2 Freight Resources. They've been huge in their commitment to sim racing in the past couple of months, sponsoring Jeff Green in our Cup Series and Xfinity Series over on the main series that we run here in Elite Racing Leagues, and it's great to have them on board as a premier sponsor.
I think we have one pace lap tonight, right?
That's what it's looking like, Mark. And a really solid lap, as you guys said, for R.C. Anderson to be able to get himself to P1, I believe. That's not what we're seeing here on the top three. It says Josh Green, Peter Dempsey, and Trent Walco. I think we had said that it was R.C. Anderson, but we'll see when they come back around. There you go. R.C. Anderson, Rich, on the pole position alongside Josh Green. Interesting, Green, as I said, will be a second-year driver in USF 2000. So he's driven this car, not this particular car, but he's actually driven this tub, at least, in the offseason.
And there you go, just some more professional names you see there in the top four. And again, as you continue going into row three, I mean, what a stacked field we've got going on here. Robert Wickens, Trenton Walco making up that third row. Stephen Wilson, Jackson Lee. Again, we've got some real-life drivers in here. Where's the first sim driver going to be? That's going to be, I believe, Chris Wilhite in the ninth position there on row 5.
It is fun to see how the sim-exclusive drivers compete against the real-world racers on iRacing.
Well, we've got some good drivers, let's be real. And interesting, I'm kind of scrolling up and down. I think the only one of these drivers to actually drive physically the real-life PM18 would probably be Peter Dempsey. I mean, he owns his own team with a couple of PM18s for Turn 3 Motorsports. I'm sure he's got a chance to get behind the wheel and knock out some laps. But so that may be a guy to watch, Peter Dempsey in the number 3.
Look at the livery on Enerson's car, channeling the old Alex Zanardi Target livery of the past with that yellow lightning bolt.
I kind of figured he'd have the Lucas Oil School of Racing, which is his family owns, but I guess not. He's using that Target lightning bolt machine, like you said. And guys, I think we're underway. Green, 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 Rish, racing into turn number 1.
Absolutely.
We've got 15 laps to go.
Yep, a great jump there from RC Anderson. That's one of the things you really get here in iRacing, but battle already in for second position between Josh Green and Peter Dempsey. Side by side, they've got, like you said, I guess, Dempsey owning the car that Josh Green runs in real life. So these two identical cars, but driving wheel to wheel and fighting it out for the second position. What a great battle we've already got going on. But RC Anderson checking out up front.
I like those that livery. I wonder if that's going to be the new colors that they run. That's not exactly what the color scheme was of the Turn 3 Motorsports cars last year. So this could be the new look. Could be our first look at what those cars are going to look like the 2021 season. I love it. I talked to Peter Dempsey actually last night. They've got 2 drivers already signed for the USF 2000 team and are working on getting the drivers signed for Indy Pro 2000 as well. They actually started in USF or Indy Pro and added USF 2000 this year. And check this out. Here goes. Actually, Dempsey going to work on his young drivers. They work their way down here into turn number, I think that's 8 and 9. Dempsey gets around in the number 13 and that's Josh Green actually in the 13. Dempsey in the 3. A lot of pressure there, guys, as they're going at it. Anders Krone's kind of watching things happen from P4.
And right behind him, Robert Wickens is waiting just to see if somebody makes a mistake so he can move up as well. But R.C. Anderson comes around to complete lap number 1. We're on lap number 2 now as they head down into the S's.
Yeah, already 1.2 seconds there for RC Anderson. So that's what just battling with between driver and team boss there does for you. That's allowed RC some space to breathe there. But now Josh has got about half a second ahead of Peter Dempsey there. So we'll see what that 13 car can do with Josh Green here. Again, familiar with the tub, and I mean, he's shown some great pace in this series as a whole. He's run this pretty much every race we've done, or most of the races we do here. So he's been pretty invested in iRacing and has shown a great affinity towards it. So right now, a good run from Josh Green, but man, oh man, RC Anderson right now just checking out up front.
Yeah, we'll keep a look at the gap here, Rish, for sure. You know, one of the things, obviously, as you said, Peter Dempsey was putting a lot of pressure on Josh Green, so more thinking of being defensive as opposed to kind of looking forward and seeing if he'd be able to reel in RC. Anderson's a driver who did 3 years in USF 2000, actually didn't run our Indy Pro 2000 level, which at that point was Pro Mazda. Jumped straight to Indy Lights, and then did the 1 year in Indy Lights, won a couple of races. Initially, we were looking at doing a long-term program in Indy Lights, but he did so well in that rookie season. You know, they got into
off the track a little bit there. Sorry to interrupt, but looks like Dempsey got just a little bit off the track.
Oh, that was Josh Green.
Yep. That was Green, okay.
Yeah, Josh. That's a tough part of the racetrack, guys. Turn number 17. You're trying to roll so much corner speed there, and we see it in real life a lot. Guys will get a little bit wide at the exit, maybe a bit of mid-corner understeer, and the car pushes off a little bit. And the minute you touch that grass on the outside, it really sucks you in. And we've seen drivers go 4 wheels off there before as well.
And Wickens and Krone are trading places. Wickens was up ahead of Krone for a second there, and now Wickens is back in 4th. Krone 5th, Trenton Walco 6th.
Yeah, bring Trent Walco back into it here, Mark. You said it there. You can see he's ready to attack right now. Walco trying to get by Krone. Krone doing the same thing, seeing if he can't slide by Robert Wickens. This is a really good battle, I think, for 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, fantastic battling on this track, and I'm curious. You know, we've seen maybe some not as great wheel-to-wheel action in the IndyCar series, but how has it been in the Road to Indy series at Barber Motorsports Park? It's obviously a pretty intricate course and very technical course for drivers, and that doesn't always mean it's a great track for passing. But right now we've got great battles going on track. Is that just iRacing giving us some extra excitement, or does this track have a lot to offer when you take away some of the horsepower from these guys?
No, I would tell you, Rich, it's very similar to IndyCar. This is a track that's unbelievably tough to pass on. It really wasn't designed or built for car racing. It was initially designed as a motorcycle racetrack, so it works better, when you got 2 wheels and not near as wide. Really, the only real quality place to pass here is coming down into turn number 5, which is where the drivers are coming right now. That's that hard-braking downhill left-hander. That's the best place to pass. If a guy makes a mistake there, you can potentially get inside him coming up the hill here and working your way over to the 7A, B, and C complex. But otherwise, drivers will tell you, really hard to pass. This is a particular track where you do have to have the setup. That's the only big difference. If you're not the setup's not right, you could be way off. But the way we qualify, it lines people up on speed, and unless they've made some big gains between qualifying and the races, we see our events be quite processional on occasion.
And the concern about the width of the track and the design originally for motorcycles, that was one of the real things that people were worried about when IndyCar first came here.
Indeed, yeah. It's another Alan Wilson design. He's designed a lot of racetracks around the country and around the world. Utah Motorsports Campus being one of them. NOLA Motorsports Park, I believe, is an Alan Wilson as well. There's a number of tracks that Alan's designed. This one, a fantastic track for bikes, but as I said, not completely ideal. But I tell you one thing, as a track day facility, this would be an amazing track just to get out there and just drive around, get some laps on for sure.
I'll take it over a Tilke track any day of the week.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. I think it is very interesting for myself. I was a Formula One fan growing up, and I didn't really have an appreciation for the road courses we had in the United States until it was 2016 when I first watched an Indy 500 because a Formula One driver by the name of Alexander Rossi was taking part. I wonder how that ended for him, but that just got me hooked on IndyCar, and man, oh man, some of the tracks that I've discovered that we've got here in the country are just amazing. Because they just kind of adapt to the rolling hills and the scenery around there rather than just kind of finding a flat area and creating a track that's not necessarily the most intriguing.
And then when you have to tart it up for the F1 crowd to put all the luxury amenities and all that nonsense, it just sort of takes all the fun out of the road course.
Yeah, it's the mystique you lose, right? You lose that character. Like, it's not like a track like a Road America or, for up where I am north of the border, a track like Canadian Motorsports Park. Mostport, as many people know, that track there's just so much character in that racetrack, and it's so tough. It's got a bit of danger, but it's such a tough racetrack. A lot of the ones, as you said, Mark, kind of watered down. The level of safety's changed to so much that they're really quite boring to a certain extent.
I mean, if you took Watkins Glen and made it F1 compatible today, you'd take all the character out of it.
Well, and listen, when we went back there with IndyCar, however many years ago that was, I think 4 years ago, right? Every driver would tell you, and every driver on the road to Indy said this, their favorite racetrack immediately when we were at Watkins Glen. That track I've driven it myself on a number of occasions. It's such a fun racetrack. And again, elevation changes, very similar to the ones here at Barber Motorsports Park. It's just a lot more braking zones that allow for those passing opportunities.
Now, I'm actually curious, was IndyCar at Watkins Glen before the repave they did a couple years back? Because that also, I've heard, changed the track quite a bit in terms of how it drives.
Yeah, we came back right at the repave. It was glass smooth. Drivers absolutely loved it, and it definitely changed the character of it. But the track still, with the way it's laid out,
100%.
The elevation changes, right? It's just amazing.
One of the
but
best
all it takes is one or two New York winters to completely screw up that repave.
Very true.
Hopefully,
2.5 seconds, Rich, the lead right now for RC Indy. So just a quick look back at what's going on here. Peter Dempsey still holding that position away from his young driver, Josh Green. Robert Wickens still running in that fourth spot. Andrews Crone and Trent Walco there in fifth and sixth. Jackson Lee running pretty good here. And as Mark said off the top of the broadcast, part of the Team USA scholarship alongside Bryce Aaron. Raced at the Formula Ford Festival, Brands Hatch, and the Walter Hayes Trophy as well at Silverstone.
Ooh, whoa, Stephen Wilson got loose there.
That's the same place he went off before, too, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of turn number 5. So a little bit of struggle for Stefan getting out of turn 5. But just to wrap up the thought of Jackson Lee, he had a couple of really good finishes, was able to get into the top 10. And the key was he had never raced in the rain before. And Britain in October,
yep.
I think it rains at the festival every year. And that was one thing he said. I did a couple interviews with Jackson. Simply, he'd never driven in the rain. It was an amazing experience for him, but that probably put him behind the 8 ball a little bit. But, man, he ran really good for a guy that's never driven in conditions like that.
Impressive.
He is going to be one to watch. I really hope he's able to pull together the funding for the F2000 season this year.
Yeah, we'd love to have him in USF 2000. I know he's in talks with a couple of teams right now.
Who do we have around there? That's Anders Crone.
That's Anders Crone, indeed. Crone around, guys, in his machine coming out of turn number 12.
Yeah, let's...
Can we talk...
Can we see what happened there, Rish?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's see if we can grab a replay of what exactly happened to Anders Crone. Might have just gotten a little bit too wide coming off the final corner there. We'll take a look and see what happened to this number 2 car. And that's exactly what went down.
Got into the grass.
Yeah, but then again, remember I talked about the fact that a lot of guys struggle with exit understeer. That was definitely exit oversteer. He started to get that car rotated potentially a little early, right? And you can see the rear end already start to come around as he was working his way over to the rumble strips, the exit rumbles on the corner outside of corner 17. And the minute it got onto the grass, he was done.
And again, another bit of big slide there through the chicane for Anders Krohn. So just getting back up to speed here. It's once you lose that concentration, that zone that you kind of get in when driving, it's very difficult to get yourself back into it, and that's when you really are making mistakes. And you're seeing that a little bit here from Anders Krohn.
I wonder if he suffered a bit of damage when he hit the curbs that first time around that might have caused the second one.
Possibility for sure. Again, it's been interesting watching Anders. He's won a bunch of races I've seen as of late here on iRacing and a number of the different series. And like as I said, this is a guy that came all the way through this. Oh, that's the replay.
Oh, here we go.
No, again. That's the same thing again.
Another one.
That's another one.
That's another spin.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was a replay as well. I was concerned that I had it still on replay. Nope.
Carbon copy there. That was lap number 9 for Anders Krohn going around. What I wanted to say was, we could probably have Anders up in the booth right now if he's not happy with the car, because again, he was the driver analyst for the IndyCar radio network for a number of years. So not sure what's going on with Anders here. And again, listen, we saw it with Stefan Wilson, right? There was that one part of the racetrack he was struggling on. He had a couple of offs or potential offs over in 5. It appears that the nemesis today, at least for Anders Krohn, has turned 17.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got a pretty spread out field right now. Every driver more or less about a second away from the next person around them. We'll switch over here to Robert Wickens, who's maybe the closest to the back of Josh Green. So Wickens making some progress to the back of that 13 car, at least over the course of this race. And he's actually closing in pretty quickly. I wonder if Josh Green's been struggling with something there. That dropped about 0.3 there, but now it's gone back up a little bit. So fluctuating gap between Robert Wickens and Josh Green, though, for the battle between for third position.
Yeah,
meanwhile,
for me,
go ahead, Rob.
I was just going to say, for me, it's we talked a lot about the different drivers. Obviously, everybody knows what happened to Robert in that wreck at Pocono, and just the way he has continued to dedicate himself to getting that mobility, right? Get himself back in a race car has been amazing. I know that this past summer during COVID, his brother actually has his own race team and manages a karting track up in Hamilton, Ontario. He got a chance to get some laps in there. They've got a cart fitted with hand controls. So Robert's actually been back behind the wheel of a cart, which has been great outdoors. And of course, doing a lot of iRacing as well. I like seeing the dedication to the sport and the craft still, while he continues to push physically to get himself back to where he wants to be. It's I've known Robert for 20 something years, and I think I've never been more proud of seeing what he's been able to do over these last couple of years.
Does his iRacing rig have a special setup as well?
I believe it does. Yeah, I think he worked with SimCraft. I'm not exactly sure. I should probably get the right name before I give a plug. But he had one of the major companies help him out, and I believe he does use the hand controls on the sim as well.
Maybe we can drag him into the booth here at some point between races and talk to him about it.
Great idea.
That'd be
Meanwhile, Rossi Anderson has completed lap number 10. We have 5 laps to go. He still has he's up to about a 3-second lead now over Peter Dempsey.
Yeah, and we've got a little bit of cloud cover over the track. It looks like it's gotten noticeably darker here, so we'll see how that affects guys. In theory, should give them a little bit more grip coming out of corners, and just all around, track temp should go down. But yeah, for RC, 3 seconds up the road ahead of Peter Dempsey. He's really just been untouchable since the start.
Little moment right there, though. You see that little wiggle coming out of turn number 5. Had to catch it. Looks like the car almost tried to step away on him a little bit, and but able to catch it, as we said. RC, again, a former race winner in Indy Lights, did a 3-race stint with Dale Coyne Racing. Was very impressive a number of years ago. In the what was that? Yeah, it was. I guess it was the NTT IndyCar Series at that point. I don't know that it was the pre-sponsor. But yeah, now a lot of the time spent, number 1, trying to find money to get back to IndyCar. Number 2, as the lead instructor, the Lucas Oil School of Racing. And we're seeing a lot of drivers come out of that School of Racing with the scholarship they have, go into the USF 2000 program. The Lucas Oil School has just been amazing. A great opportunity for these young drivers, and a guy like Prescott Campbell won the championship a couple of years ago, Reese-Gold the year before that, able to get a $75,000 scholarship to move into USF 2000. And it'll be Eli Navarro, last year's champion, will run in USF 2000 with D-Force Racing 2021. So we're big partners with Lucas Oil School of Racing, and they're doing a tremendous job in really taking a lot of great, talented young karters and getting them dialed into what it takes to drive a race car.
Absolutely.
I think Jackson Lee did some work with them too as well, right?
He did. He ran the full series as well, and they've had a lot of guys that have been in it. It'll be a stacked field again this year. But yeah, Jackson Lee did. I think he finished second or third in the Lucas Oil School of Racing.
Yeah, Lucas
When
Oil.
do we see Road to Indy hit the track for real this year, Rob?
It'll actually be at this particular racetrack here. We'll be there at Barber Motorsports Park. I believe the 11th to the 13th is the date in April. From there, of course, a week off, and then we head to St. Petersburg. But yeah, we'll be back on track, as I said, April 11 to 13 here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Is that Masters weekend?
I hope not.
I think it. I'm just wondering because we talk about Barber being the Augusta National of Motorsports, and it would be interesting to see him to compare the two.
True. I'll do a quick grab here. Masters.com. We'll find out. The beauty of having your laptop in front of you all the time, right?
Absolutely. There's the distraction, or what's normally seen as a distraction, is now the tool that you rely on every single day. It's something else. The world we're living in right now.
Very true. Very true. I'm trying to find. I can't find a date anywhere here.
We haven't. Go ahead.
I don't know if they set a date yet. Maybe they haven't set a date for it yet.
It's usually the first full weekend of April, first or
You're right.
second weekend of April.
You're right, sir. But we'll find out when it is. I'll let you guys call the action. I'll do some searching here.
Okay.
Well, we've got Robert Wickens here closing in on the back of Josh Green there. We've kind of been seeing him making progress slowly but surely, lap by lap, but with 3 laps to go now, is Wickens within striking distance of Josh Green. And also, we were talking earlier, it's a tricky track to make passes on. Can Wickens find his way past Josh Green, though? Josh Green doing a good job holding on here. Looks like he might just be struggling a little bit with rear grip, and in 15 laps, maybe just wore through those rear tires a little bit too quickly.
Wickens is down to a quarter of a second, just over 0.2 of a second right now behind Josh Green for 4th place. Closing in just a little bit closer with 4 laps to go. We're down to 3 now, actually.
One of the absolute beauties, Mark, about iRacing is a driver like Josh Green, who's at the very first rung of the road to Indy. He's 3 steps away from the NTT IndyCar Series, is going head-to-head right now against a guy that was at one point considered to be, that next coming superstar when he arrived on the scene. This is super exciting to watch these guys go at it. And Robert's starting to put the pressure on right now. You said, I think it's 2 laps to go as they come down through the Alabama roller coaster right now. Looks like Green a little bit more gap there coming up over turn number 4. Probably about 6 or 7 car lengths as they work their way down to 5. And you can be sure that Wickens will keep pushing here, trying to get that little mistake. All it takes, right? One mistake. Drop a wheel somewhere.
It's up to about 0.4 of a second right now for the lead for Green.
Yeah, you're going to keep seeing it fluctuate just here and there as they go through the corners. I think Wickens needs just a really good exit, maybe off of this next corner here, because you've got a bit of a straight where you can potentially make a move, but it's pretty high-speed corners coming up after this, so he might just have to wait another lap, try and do it maybe in the second to last corner, or wait until turn 5 on the final lap.
Yeah, personally for me, that back part of the racetrack's so sketchy. 9, 10, the run down to 11 and 12. These corners are so unbelievably quick, and it's all about being so precise on the turn in, right? If you miss the turn in, you're so late on the corner. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to be able to get that car pointed in the right direction.
Now, how much tweaking can these guys do to the rigs and do to their cars before the race tonight? We are on the Whiskey Cast last call, the final lap, 1 lap to go.
I think I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a fixed setup or not, Rish. That's not something I asked. But do you know the answer to that question?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's something that they typically do here in Elite Racing Leagues, is just to increase driver parity. Everyone runs the exact same setup. I believe there's small changes you can make, brake bias being one of those. And that typically ends up being more so driver comfort than anything else. But otherwise, these setups are identical amongst all of these drivers.
Final lap here for R.C. Ederson. Guy started on the pole position, and Rish looking to bring it home to see if he can get the win in the front end of the doubleheader.
Absolutely, and just a quick thing. I don't know if you mentioned it, but we got someone in the comments saying Masters is April 8th to April 11th.
Yeah, I did. It's exactly right. So it'll be the same weekend.
Yeah, so thanks, Vic Bloom. But yeah, you've got competing schedules there between the Masters and the Road to Indy Series kicking off. But for R.C. Anderson, a dominant first race here tonight in these Indy Pro 2000 cars. He's got just one more corner to go. The checkered flag is out. Nice and easy off the final corner. And by 4 seconds, R.C. Anderson wins race number 1 at Barber Motorsports Park. Peter Dempsey will bring it home in second place with his driver, Josh Green, holding off IndyCar driver Robert Wickens for the last podium position.
Yeah,
Then
solid run there.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
Trent Welko coming in 5th, Jackson Lee 6th, Steph Wilson 7th, Chad Frankenfield in 8th, Anders Krohn winds up 9th after all those incidents earlier in the race, and Chris Wilhite rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, good looking field. And again, drivers getting a chance now to press the reset button. There's your lineup right there. It's a 4.342 second victory for R.C. Enerson in that number 50 machine. Peter Dempsey got by his young charge, Josh Green, in the early going and held that spot. And Green, as we watched late in the race, challenged aggressively by the Canadian Robert Wickens in that number 6 machine. Trent Walco rounding out the top 5. And there's your states: Florida, Dempsey, I believe. What's that say there?
Illinois.
Illinois. Yeah, no, that's right. The shop is actually at, I think, Audubon Country Club in Joliet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I like that graphic though. New York for Josh Green, Indiana for Wickens, living in Indianapolis, and Pennsylvania for Trent Walco.
All right.
We have not had a chance to discuss the IndyCar news of the day. What's your take on Marco Andretti deciding to step back and just run the 500 this year?
Personally for me, I'd say way to go. Take control of your life and what you want to do something a little bit different. It's been tough sledding for him the last couple of years. He's had some highs and some lows. Pole in Indianapolis was, of course, massive. He's got unfinished business at the 500. I hope he's able to find some success there. I like the fact that he's decided to go off and do something different, run with his his cousin Jarrett, got some fun, and just get back to having fun racing.
Yeah, because it has not been fun for him the last couple of years. One thing I should point out, we had Hinch on the show earlier today as well, and he said, I asked specifically if Marco's move out of the car makes it easier for him now. And apparently they're not splitting any of the money from Marco's 98 car over with Hinch, so they're not going to make that any easier for Hinch to just sort of slot into Marco's car.
No.
Yeah, I saw that. That was I've seen a couple of quotes on that, which I find interesting. I'm really hoping that, of course, James is able to get that program put together for 2021.
Hinch told us he's very close to having it put together. I think it's down to maybe 1 or 2 final deals to get the money together to run the full season.
Good to know.
Because I was gonna ask it. Because the way that some people talk about it, it makes it sound like the James Hinchcliffe to Andretti Autosport is already a done deal, but it definitely seems like there's still a lot of things to be sorted out there.
It's a done deal until the contract is signed.
That's it. There's a lot to be done, especially in these COVID times. I think things are a bit different. I would have to believe that a lot of the contracts that are getting written now with sponsors will have I don't want to say out clauses, but maybe plan A, plan Bs, plan Cs, depending on what would happen. Roger Penske said we're running Indianapolis 500 on May the 30th. We're running it this year, fans or not. Well, if there's no fans, sponsors are going to want potentially a different approach. So there's going to have to be a lot of different plans, I think, built into a lot of the contracts that are being put together for 2021.
It's going to be like you're seeing in hockey this year, where you're seeing sponsorships and stickers on the team helmets for the first time that we would never have tolerated before. And we're putting up with it this year just because of the need to make up some of the advertising revenue and the commitments to sponsors.
Certainly.
Well, so Rich, you want to set this thing up for the next race? We're doing back-to-back 15-lappers here, right? So are we doing another qualifying session, or how are we lining them up for race number 2?
According to what I've got here, we're going to be doing another 15-minute qualifying session, though that might be shortened a little bit. But yeah, we're going to go qualifying, and then we'll have another 15-lap race. So still some action to go tonight. But I did want to, you gave me a great segue. You guys were talking about sponsors. I wanted to talk about one of ours. Once again, C2 Freight Resources. I want to talk about their EDI services, their electronic data interchange services, which allow shippers to keep close electronic tabs on their shipments throughout the freight movement process. For more information about their EDI services or to discuss your needs for other specialized services, contact C2 Freight Resources Incorporated. They see to your freight needs.
I see the Richmar Florist Racing logo up there on the screen as well, and had a chance to watch a little bit of the Chili Bowl last night on Flow Racing. And Garrett Smithley, I think, had the Richmar Florist logo on the suit. I think they're sponsoring his program at the Chili Bowl, which I thought was great. I know that Richmar coming on in a big way with the program. In the lockdown during the whole COVID-19 program, they came on board with a number of races, number of drivers. So great to have them on board here with the Elite Racing Network as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Another major supporter of sim racing as a whole. Richmar Flores has been on board with us for again a couple of months now, and what I mean, it's great to see some of these big corporations or people who've been involved in motorsports pretty heavily, making that shift over to sim racing and showing their interest there.
Rich, you want to see if we can con RC into coming into the room with us for a second?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let's see if I can potentially try and grab RC, though might be a little bit tricky for me. Let's take a look. I was told we might be talking to drivers more so after this second race here.
Okay.
Versus in between races to give some of these guys a chance to do a little bit more practice. But I don't know if RC needs a little bit more practice.
Yeah,
he seemed to got it pretty sorted.
Yeah. We need to distract him so the other guys can get some practice in.
Exactly.
Let's get him in here and keep him off the racetrack. I think it's a better call. Stunk up the joint on us.
I'll reach out here to RC, see if he wants to join us in the booth. But for right now, we should be back to practice pictures here at Barber Motorsports Park. And yes, that's correct. You do see a Corvette C8 on track. We've got someone filling in as our pace car driver. That's Ethan Reisner. He's given it a little bit of a go around these guys. So a bit of fun right now during practice sessions. But we will have an official pace car driving around this time for race 2.
I thought that was the guy that was driving the Corvette pace car at Detroit a couple of years ago that put it into the wall.
Oh, that's a good one there. That was one of the, I think that was a vice president of Chevrolet that stuck it in the wall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the president of Chevrolet now. He still got promoted despite that.
There you go. That's good. Hey, it was good advertising, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Proof that the Corvette is a safe car when you prang it into the wall at 100 miles an hour.
That's it. Good branded content for sure. It'll be interesting to see what we see for speeds out of the drivers here. Peter Dempsey, of course, looking for a little bit more P2 in that opening race of the doubleheader behind RC Enerson. RC was able to stretch away to that about 3.8-second lead. You know that Peter's going to want to see if he can't find just a little bit more pace. Josh Green will be thinking the same thing as well. It would be good to get a chance to talk to RC Enerson. I don't know that he needs to go back out, Mark. I think you said it straight up. We need to get him in here to make sure he's not on the racetrack and try to give these guys a chance to close back up.
Absolutely. Looks like he's not driving right now. I shot him a message to see if he wants to hop in here with us, but we'll see. But yeah, RC deciding even without an interview, he's just going to sit back and relax during this practice session here.
Good for him.
I think we're going to start him at the back of the field and give him a handicap.
I was thinking that, you know what, our complete reverse grid would have been fantastic. We should have put him at the back. We should have flipped with results of the first race, flipped it over, and watched these guys come from the back. That would have been interesting, I think. I would have been in for that.
Well, yeah, turn him around, make him start in the other direction, and then have to do the 180.
Oh, all right, then.
Let's have some fun with it.
I believe we may actually have some inversion in the field. I'm just getting a message from Race Control, just trying to clarify who all gets inverted. But if it's the way it was done in the past, I believe the top 10 drivers all get sent to the back inverted, while everyone who finished outside the top 10 just gets a chance to qualify normally.
Okay.
All right, interesting.
So we may be seeing RC starting in the back with Peter Dempsey in second to last, and so on and so forth from then.
That would make me happy. That's good. We're watching Marshall Stanley right now, the number 25 machine, coming down through the Alabama roller coaster, back up top here again. This is the inside of essentially the inside of turn number 4, coming down to turn 5, and I talked about that corner there. That's the primary passing opportunity. Charlotte's Web here at Barber Motorsports Park. Downhill braking zone. You got to get the car to rotate, get it turned, back on the throttle, but you got to wait, right? A little too early on the throttle, you're going to take it around. We've seen a couple of guys do that before. We saw that Stephen Wilson was having some trouble in that corner. It's tough to get the power down. You got to wait, right? You're so impatient. You want to get back on the throttle, but you got to get the car pointed in the right direction.
Chris, you think we can get on Marshall's in-car, or do they have in-cars on this one?
They may actually. Let's take a look. Yeah, here we go.
Let's run a lap around with Marshall here.
Right on the roll bar
Let's do a little bit. Yeah, let's do a little bit of this in the race too. We had some good battles. We can grab some in-car stuff. Here's a good shot of 16 coming down to 17. We'll cruise around for a lap with Marshall Stanley.
Coming down the main stretch at full speed, heading into turn 1.
And you'll see the downhill run I talked about. Downhill into that compression. The car will actually squat down, climbing back up the hill here for turn number 2. Constant radius right-hander, trying to feed that throttle in. Got to get to the outside there, onto the rumbles on the outside, back up over the rise of 4. It's actually the in-car guys gets a really good look at the elevation changes here at Barber.
Absolutely. It's downhill heading into turn 5. This is such a tricky turn for braking as well as putting the power on. It's just there's so many places where things can go wrong. We've seen on the exit, and you can very easily lock up your inside tire there heading into that corner. This downhill chicane, though, one of my favorite corners on this track.
What they call it, 7A, 7B, and 7C, I believe is what they call it. And then out through then they're 8, then 9, and 10. This is the one here.
Really smoothly.
Yeah, this is the corner I've always struggled with, coming through here to keep all that speed coming through, not drive off the other side of the racetrack. Same with this next one here again, as I said, 11 and 12. This is such a tough part of this racetrack.
Marshall handling this very smoothly, except for that little bobble right there.
Yeah, a little wiggle there.
I jinxed him.
He did. That's the announcer's curse right there, Mark, for sure.
My bad.
Absolutely, a little bit. It's definitely something I've noticed. I've driven this track a couple of times myself on the sim, and those final 2 corners definitely the car feels more cumbersome than when you're normally going around the track. There's just something about it where it's just the front end doesn't quite do what you want it to.
That's interesting insight for sure. Stanley currently in the P3 spot. His best lap at a 118.344, about 2/10 off the fast lap laid down by Josh Green. 117.866. And Wickens, no, that's actually Wickens now to P1. 117.866 for Wickens, a 118.097 for Josh Green.
How would these times compare to the real world times?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I probably should have went to the website to figure it out. I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you might know offhand.
I do not. There's too many tracks, Mark. What are you talking about?
Too many tracks,
too many different
love
series. This track, Rob.
I do love this track, and I'll obviously do my due diligence when we go back to racing, and just the second weekend of April, getting things back underway with the change in the schedule. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Well, I just want to hear somebody compare real world time, saying, "Oh, well, they do that 6 seconds faster in iRacing."
Right?
It's something that I never fully understood with iRacing or some sim racing. I think iRacing is a little bit better than this than some other ones that I've seen, but the level of aggression some drivers have on the wheel in iRacing to get a fast lap, and it's just something that you physically would never be able to do in real life. And I actually talked to some guys who have put in like world record times on iRacing, and they say the fastest way around the track, you actually turn down what we call force feedback, which is where the game tries and gives you basically rumbles and any kind of feedback to what the car might be doing. They say they turn it completely down because you're just turning the wheel as fast as you can to get as quick of a rotation as possible. And there's certainly a method to being fast in iRacing, and it may not correlate perfectly to that real life racing there.
Well, guys, we didn't actually run Barber Motorsports Park back in 2019. Didn't run it, of course, in 2020 when we did get racing again in July. You got to go back to the very first year of the PM18 in 2018, and it looks to me like the fastest qualifying lap was Parker Thompson out of Red Deer, Alberta, Canada for Exclusive Autosport, a 116.507. So 116.5 was a fast lap, so about a second quicker than the lap that Peter Dempsey just laid down at 117.511.
Interesting, with the specs approximately the same between the virtual and the real cars, right?
Well, but one of the things is we don't know the weather at that point either, right? I'm not sure exactly what we've got here right now for temperature in terms of the race. I know that obviously iRacing does that. You'll pop that up. I can't read that because my screen's too small. Rich, what do we got for temp?
Well, we got air temp at 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 1% humidity, not too much wind. In terms of track temp, we've got that at 116 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if that helps in any way in terms of...
Well, remember, normally our qualifiers for Indy Pro will be earlier in the day, right? A little cooler temperature, let's say in the low 60s, mid 60s, is going to be a lot faster than, a 78-degree day, because just the fact that the engines like that they provide more horsepower in the cooler temperatures. So normally I would probably say that would have been an early morning qualifying to get down to a 16.5.
Well, Peter Dempsey had the fast lap in qualifying, followed by Robert Wickens and Josh Green, Marshall Stanley in fourth. We'll see how they grid up now and see just where the inversion points come.
Yeah, that is interesting because because Peter, Robert, Josh, and I believe Marshall all were top, and I believe Stephen Wilson as well. Were all in the top 10. So I believe they're all going to be sent to the back either way. Maybe just getting a couple of extra practice laps in there in the end, running qualifying just because they can. But I don't believe they'll get a position from that.
Well, excited to see how this next 15 lapper rolls out. Qualifying coming to an end. Checkered flag flying, as you said here. At Barber Motorsports Park, and this is if we indeed are going to send some of these guys a little further back in the pack. I think this is going to be a ton of fun to watch.
This should be interesting because if RC's all the way at the back, he's going to come flying through the field like you will not believe.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Because Dempsey and Green both had pretty good pace, and if they're able to get out front, if somebody gets stuck back a little bit, I think RC's going to have to dig in hard to be able to catch him. If a driver gets open racetrack, it doesn't have to battle with anybody. Whoever gets that first, maybe the driver's able to pull away here.
All right, we should tick over here now to our gridding procedure. We'll have our pace car lead the way, but we've got a little bit of reorganization to do. Unfortunately, can't set super custom grids through iRacing and all that. That technology not quite there available to us yet. But we'll get this full pace lap to just kind of sort things out. There you see RC most likely being sent to the back of the field here, which again should hopefully give us some super interesting racing. A tricky track to make overtakes on, so expect some aggressive moves from these guys. You've got really no downsides to going for it.
I was going to say, buckle up. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch because I'll tell you one thing about RC Enerson. Here's a guy that can get super aggressive. It was like that all the way up through the ranks. When there was an opening, he definitely would go for it. He was a lot of fun to watch in USF 2000, a ton of fun to watch in Indy Lights as well. I don't know if you remember back to that big, huge wreck that he had at Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
We're coming down the back straightaway. Someone kind of brake checked a little bit. He went up over top, and man, he flew right by my good friend Nick Yeoman, who was actually up in one of the scissor lifts calling the action at the end of the back straightaway. And what was amazing, that car was tore apart, and everybody at that point, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, went to work, get that car put back together so RC could be on the racetrack on Sunday morning. And even Jack Harvey's dad, when I was leaving the racetrack, Jack Harvey's dad was even pulling parts off the machine. So it was all hands on deck. But man, that was definitely one of the interesting parts of the career for RC Enerson.
Man.
That's sort of like the great Connor Daly iRacing line. There's a car and he's up in the air.
So there's a guy and he's flying.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what things look like here, guys, momentarily when we start rolling here. They're just getting the grid set, as you said, another 15 lapper for us. We saw a dominant performance there for RC Enerson in the number 50. A couple of racers battling from turn 3 Motorsports in Josh Green and his team owner Peter Dempsey. I like the reshuffle to see how it's all going to come out here in the end.
So we got a safety car leading a pace car here. This is a little interesting what we've got going on, but I like it.
Never works.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Indy with the 14 pace cars on that initial
True.
lap.
That's true. Exactly. We're just getting all the pageantry out of the way here.
Again, back end of the doubleheader opening race, the first ever race here on the Elite Racing Network. Great to see you guys working your tail off behind the scenes, getting things rolling today, getting ready to have this first broadcast. I'm sure you guys are going to do a lot of great things, a lot of awesome series as part of the Elite Racing Network and the Elite Racing League. So it looks to me like we're going to have Marshall Stanley alongside Anders Krone in the front row.
I believe that's what it's showing right now. We'll wait for it to fully update to, but yeah, that does appear to be what we're having. We've got Marshall Stanley. I believe that's actually Alexander Vandersant.
Yeah, indeed.
On the outside of the front row there, and that will be our lead pack there. We should have, let's take a look here at what the organization is going to be for this race. I believe we're actually going to have another pace lap after this, one manual one, to allow the drivers to just reorganize here before we get ready to go green. So this will be a 14-lap race rather than a 15-lapper.
Again, drivers warming those tires up a little bit. You can see further back in the field there, getting ready to get at it. And again, we got our wish, guys. Enough of a shuffle that RC Enerson's definitely not going to be on the pole position. This is going to be fun to watch him try to work his way through. There's RC there, and we talked about the target car, the red number 50 machine. Very impressive in that opening race. And guys, I don't know that I'd bet against him right now, even though he's starting almost at the very tail of the field. I'm not sure I would bet against R.C. Anderson right now.
Not a chance.
Mark's saying no way. He's
Nope.
taking it.
No way, yeah. No, I mean, RC's been super strong, but I mean, definitely look out for Peter Dempsey. I mean, he didn't seem to put a foot wrong. I mean, we didn't really see much from him, but he didn't really put a foot wrong. I think just kind of automatically was a little bit behind the 8 ball there when it came to attacking RC because he spent so much time fighting with Josh Green. But Peter Dempsey has track position. That could potentially work in his favor there.
Yeah, guys, if he starts P4, which what we're seeing right now, if he's P4, this is going to be really interesting. Peter Dempsey P4 and Josh Green P5, two of the fastest drivers, both on the podium in the opening race, second and third respectively. They start there. This is going to be really interesting. Is watch for them to go to the lead quickly.
As we start the informal pace lap now with the field shuffling around a little bit here.
Yeah, so expect to just see a lot of cars moving around for a little bit here. Just get everyone in line and such. It's kind of, iRacing I don't think has the functionality to allow us to just invert certain drivers or invert a field or something like that. So we have to kind of do it manually here. So bear with us. We've got our pace car, though, leading the way, manual pace car. And it will be Marshall Stanley, I believe, who will be taking, Marshall Stanley will be taking that pole position from Alexander Van de Sant. Anders Krohn and Chris Wilhite will take up this next row. I believe Stefan Wilson and Chad Frankenfield make up row 3, though that's still being maybe a little bit sorted out right now.
And we should point out that Ethan Riesener is driving the pace car, and that's why he's being shown as the leader.
This is true.
I think what we should probably do is wait for the end of the first lap, and we'll tell everybody where people are.
Honestly, that's a much safer method there. Yeah, it's
right.
little bit confusing right now as to where exactly everybody is, but we'll have that all pretty easily sorted out for you guys very shortly. Did want to, though, quickly before we went green, you touched on it a little bit, just the kind of work that's gone on behind the scenes, getting the Elite Racing Network up to speed. We didn't really talk about him much last race, but Chad Frankenfield, man, he's the person behind the Elite Racing Leagues, the Elite Racing Network. He's behind this series, all of the NASCAR series we run, the IndyCar full-length oval series that we run. He's put a lot of time and money invested into this series and turning into this, and it's a huge thing to have this as an Elite Racing Network. So once again, massive thank you to Chad for giving us all this opportunity to race, to have some fun on Friday nights or any night of the week. And I mean, what an opportunity is for some of the guys who are just pure sim racers here, like Chad, to get to race against their heroes, like Stefan Wilson, like Robert Wickens, like R.C. Enerson, as well as some of the up-and-coming stars in the road to Indy. This is just an amazing opportunity that's been put together, and what great racing we've already seen from this.
And I will second that because growing up in Indianapolis, I always dreamed of working, being able to call races for a living at some point. And despite a long career in broadcasting, I never got to do it until the Elite Racing League came along, and I was able to start calling races for the first time in a 40-year broadcasting career. So this has been a lot of fun, and thanks to Chad for letting me do this. As we come down, take the green flag, Marshall Stanley pulls away, about a 3-car length lead heading down towards the turn 1. Rob?
Yeah, great start there for Stanley. As you said, get out to the early lead. We'll see how things shake down. A little bit of a wide run there for the number 2 of Anders Krohn. Remember, we saw him struggle in turn number 17 twice in the opening race. Almost went off a little bit there to get things underway. The 7 of Chris Wilhite now sliding into the 4th spot. So the leaders taking full advantage of their starting positions to tuck in, working their way down into turn number 5. And not surprising, guys, 2 wide, Rish, behind the top 4.
2 wide, and they almost
almost
came
some
together.
Collisions.
Yeah, almost came together. We got them almost 3 wide here going into this chicane further back. You've got them 3 wide. Robert Wickens, I think Josh Green, and who else is that? Chris Wilhite.
Oh, Wickens just punted. I think Wickens just punted somebody.
Chris Wilhite, yep.
It was Wilhite,
Chris
yeah.
Wilhite, yeah. And that's a tough part of the racetrack, guys. You talked about how much you like it, Rish. It's a really hard part of the corner because you got to get the car wound up so it'll turn on, to get back around to the right-hand corner. And he just wound up just enough that Wickens could do nothing but punt him and get into the gearbox. So Wilhite's going to fall to the tail of the field. But when we get by to get that first lap in, we'll be able to give a nice top 10 rundown.
Yeah, with this...
Wickens pulled off a chrome horn worthy of Paul Tracy, for crying out loud on that one.
I think he's got a few of those allowed for him after what happened in St. Pete a couple years ago. But Marshall Stanley leads the first lap from Alexander Van de Sant. Anders Krohn takes third position with Stefan Wilson fighting it out with Josh Green. Stefan Wilson, who's past Josh Green, fighting it out with Anders Krohn for that third position.
Yeah, they're good buddies too, right? Going out of here right now, both Krohn and Wilson have been good friends for a long time. And watching them, look at the big defensive move all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack there, the inside. And here comes on the outside, the number 5 of Josh Green. He's trying to get to the outside here as well of Stefan Wilson. It was a defensive run down the bottom. And look at this again. Wilson going to block to the inside on Green. This is some aggressive racing. Wilson trying to hold off Green. And Anders Krohn just in front of him running P3.
Alrighty then, Josh Green up to 5th position, Peter Dempsey in 7th. R.C. Anderson, who started this race in 12th, up to 9th. So it's a slow progress for that 50 car. We'll keep an eye on how his progress is right now, but he's behind Chad Frankenfield, who's currently running 8th position. Meanwhile, up front, Marshall Stanley maintains about a half a second, a little bit more than that, lead over Alexander Van de Sant. But we've got a battle going up ahead between Anders Krohn and Alexander Van de Sant, as I believe that 317 might have made a little bit of a mistake.
He went a little bit wide, and Anders Krohn snuck underneath him.
Yeah, that was, Mark, you got it. That was just a little bit of an issue. Didn't quite turn in, had some turn-in understeer. The car pushed a little bit wide. And you can see that Krohn was able to keep his machine, that number 2, down to the bottom of the racetrack, coming through 16 and over to 17. So an easy pass there as the driver got a little bit wild. But there's the 2 Turn 3 Motorsports drivers as well. That's the 3 of Dempsey and the 13 of Josh Green. Now they're going to work. Here comes Dempsey. Dempsey down to the inside of Wilson into turn number 5, side by side through the corner, trying to get the car to push on the exit, and it's going to be a pass. Dempsey, oh, but they're still side by side. Rish coming out of the corner.
Absolutely, Stefan Wilson trying to hold on, and he should theoretically have the preferred line going into this corner. And is Dempsey going to back out? He's going to try and hold it around, but he's going to finally give up that position once again to Stefan Wilson. Almost loses it to Josh Green, but he's
over-under.
Yeah, what a great job there.
Green comes back around. Dempsey comes back around.
This is side by side through this high-speed section, though, and
no. Wilson off the crack.
Right back onto the racetrack, though, guys. And look who's watching the whole thing. That's Josh Green. Green put the number 13 back through somehow. And let's not say somehow, using all the talents that he has and developed over a long career thus far. Stefan Wilson able to keep the car going in the right direction.
Contact
between teammates.
Contact. That is Dempsey to the back of his young driver, Josh Green. And here comes Wickens. Wickens going to battle to the inside of Dempsey as Dempsey got into Green coming out of 16.
Man, you wanted excitement. You got it with this reverse grid. Everyone's just scrambling for positions to try and get it back up to the front. Josh Green spun around by his car owner, Peter Dempsey there. We saw Chris Wilhite pushed out of the way by Robert Wickens. There's no patience amongst these drivers. You've got just 10 laps to go still in this race, and everyone wants to try and get back up to the front, but Peter Dempsey's not letting Robert Wickens go that easily, and R.C. Anderson is joining in on the fun.
And Wickens gets around to Dempsey. Anderson right behind Dempsey, rather. Wickens pulling ahead about half a car length ahead heading into the turn. And it's almost like that first race was just a warm-up lap, set of warm-up laps, because no contact, no real racing in there. Now they're all just going at it like you would not believe.
Yeah, this, Mark, is the absolute beauty of that reverse grid, right? We're seeing R.C. Anderson having to come to the back, from the back to the front. Same with Dempsey, same with Robert Wickens. It's allowed Marshall Stanley to pull away to about a full second advantage right now over Anders Krohn. Alexander Van der Zandt still running P3. Wilson holding on to 4th, somehow able to bring it back onto the racetrack. But this is the battle we're watching here right now. That's 5th, 6th, and 7th. Wickens in the 6th, Dempsey in the 3, and R.C. Anderson in that number 50 machine. They're all lining up, and Rish, as you said, still 9 laps to go. Quite a ways to go still.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of racing still to do here, and a lot of action still to come. I mean, for Marshall Stanley right now, he's loving this, though. Anders Krohn is eating away slowly but surely at that gap down to about 0.7 of a second. So look out, Marshall Stanley up front. Alexander Van de Sant has about a second over Stefan Wilson, who's probably still recovering a little bit from that wild ride he had. But that's where this battle is right now for 4th position. Half a second between him and Robert Wickens, between Wickens and Dempsey, between Dempsey and R.C. Anderson here or there. So you've got 4 drivers there fighting for this 4th position. All of them have seen their way in some form of professional or semi-professional racing, and they're putting it all on the line here at Barber Motorsports Park. This is great racing, and this is why I love iRacing. Is there's no there's no downsides to sending the car into the corner. You're not limited by the the physical factor of it, that this is gonna hurt if it goes wrong. If it goes wrong, I mean, you just reset your car and you go home. Or you don't even go home, you turn off your computer. You've got nowhere to walk.
No pixels were damaged in the running of this race tonight.
Well, and that's a positive and a negative, right? The negative is that you get drivers will probably make moves that they wouldn't otherwise make in a real race car. And that kind of does change things for some people. But otherwise, I'm liking this battle here so far. But again, Marshall Stanley, guys, taking full advantage of this. Doesn't have a full lead. Anders Kroon's closing up on him. Here's that battle for the lead. Kroon starting to put the pressure here on Stanley. In fact, he'll look to the inside coming
Here
down.
we go.
We're going to get a new leader. Kroon potentially getting that car to go wide.
Stanley's going to
far enough wide. Yeah, Stanley's going to try to come back on the inside, Rish.
Yeah, and we saw this with Stefan Wilson. This should be the preferred line, and he should be able to just, and Kroon decides to back out. But again, we'll see if Anders Kroon can do what I believe it was Robert Wickens did, or no, excuse me, it was Peter Dempsey did on Stefan Wilson, and a similar type of move, but not quite. You're not really going to want to go side by side here. These guys keep it a little bit tamer than the battle we saw further back in the field.
Oh, look
or
at
maybe
this.
not.
Kroon. Yeah, Kroon
There
set
goes
that
Kroon.
back up. Yeah, he set that back up in turn number 8. Had a much different entry than Stanley to turn 8, and able to get the pass done over in turn number 10. Here's Anders Kroon to P1. What a great run. Veteran driver, and that was a veteran driver move, guys. Set that pass up 4 corners early.
And Stanley went a little bit wide going through that turn and gave Kroon a chance to pull a little bit farther ahead as we complete lap number 7. Or lap number 6, rather. No, lap number 7. We're on lap number 8 of 15.
New leader, as you guys said, Anders Kroon able to get the pass done. Stanley runs second, Van der Zandt third. Stefan Wilson still in that 4th spot, but we're kind of stacking things up here a little bit as Stefan Wilson's trying to close. Look at this. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right there, back to R.C. Enerson. We're stacking it up in a big way here. You can see Enerson's at the tail of that grid. And guys, with still 7 laps remaining, RC's going to start packing them up here to see if he can't get up. And Kroon, as we know, had some issues over in turn 17. He's been able to handle those so far and paces the field here past the halfway point.
Yeah, this is really anybody's race right now. I mean, this is such a close battle we've got. Yeah, first all the way through 7th position within the span of, 2 seconds on the track, but each of them within, 2 to 4 tenths of each other. This is some great racing we're seeing here at Barber Motorsports Park. A little bit tricky to overtake, but you're seeing guys making mistakes there, like we just saw Alexander Van der Zandt. He's going to now fall back to the back of this train, I think, as RC is going to get by. He just goes a little bit wide there, gets one wheel on the grass, and you lose all of those positions with how close this field is.
I think he was looking in his rear views and saw that pack of cars behind him as going, uh-oh, I got to get out of the way here.
Take it 3 wide coming down to turn number 1. That is Enerson on the inside. He's been able to get by Dempsey. Dempsey's now trying to stick it to the inside as well. Over through the Alabama roller coaster. Dempsey down to the bottom. It's the number 50 of R.C. Enerson. He has now worked his way into P5. Here comes the move. Look at that big block move to the bottom. Hey, guys, Enerson's going to try it the hard way. The outside of turn number 5. It'll stick there. Can he keep it? He can't.
Oh!
No.
And Stefan...
we got a crash.
Contact between Kroon, between R.C. Enerson, as again, guys, in turn number 9. The issue
and
there.
Steph Wilson.
Stefan Wilson. Yeah, Stefan Wilson went around and nowhere to go for R.C. Enerson.
Now, let's see if we can grab a replay of that. That was some pretty exciting racing we saw there, but I mean, 2x2 into that corner, trying to make that outside move work is going to be very tricky. And here we see it, R.C. Enerson trying to get to that outside, and you see the very tight line, and it actually looks like, yeah, there you go. Stefan Wilson bounces off the inside curb, and that's what ends up catching out R.C. Enerson.
Can we see that from RC's in-car?
Yes, we absolutely can. Let's ride on board with that 50 car for this pretty wild ride. And actually, we might go back a couple of corners here to see just how he set this great move up.
I think that RC, again, he's trying that outside run. You can see that Stefan's going to block to the inside of the racetrack. And we've seen a lot of passes here in real-life racing around the outside because you get a better run from there. He gets a bit wide, trying to diamond the corner off. And look at the amount of speed he's got. He's going to absolutely roll past and absolutely nowhere to go. As once again, as Rish, you picked it up, Wilson had trouble, got into the rumbles in the curbing on the inside of the racetrack and unsettled the car. He tried to get back to power. He wasn't pointing in the right direction. He had a lot of wheel in it, rolled onto that throttle, and around it went.
Well, Stefan Wilson still pointing in the right direction, though, despite all of that, and honestly didn't look like he was going to. But yeah, Stefan Wilson it's actually, I believe Anders Crone's gone off. Our leader's gone off, and he's going to drop positions. I just saw that switch over. Marshall Stanley retakes the lead with now Robert Wickens in second. And this battle now 3 further seconds behind them. But something happened to this 2 car of Anders Krone.
Yeah, let's get a replay on that. Rish picking it up quickly there. An issue there for Anders Krone, who was the leader, having gone by Marshall Stanley. We'll have a look at the replay of what happened to Anders coming down through 7A, B, and C.
Hit the curb.
Just a little too much curb coming in. Wasn't able to get the car rotated back around to the right side of the racetrack. Uncharacteristic mistake coming through there for Anders Krone. He'll drop back to what? Probably 5th position on the racetrack.
Yep, currently running 5th position with Marshall Stanley now leading the way, but Robert Wickens right on his backside, so we've got another tight battle going on here for the lead.
Less than 0.3 of a second separating Stanley from Wickens.
Yeah, Robbie Wickens now moving up into P1. He's going to look to the inside to try to make a pass here. He's got the bottom of the racetrack, but just can't get the run. Look at way outside, side by side, coming out of turn number 5 now.
Stanley went too far wide heading into that left-hander, but was able to salvage it coming back down to the right-hander.
Yeah, it looks like Marshall Stanley might have gotten just the rear end out a little bit there on the entrance to that corner. Not sure if it's just the angle we see though on these cameras, but right now Stanley still defending from Robert Wickens, but that 6 car looking very, very fast right now. Let's see what Robert can do to set up a move on this 25. Marshall Stanley though has led probably most of the laps we've had here tonight. Might be between him or Anders Krone, but that's what you get. You start in the front, and we're seeing it how well that worked out for Marshall Stanley. But he's going to go wide in the semifinal corner, and that's going to give Robert Wickens a chance maybe here on the front straight.
Yeah, it'll be the over-under here. Look at the amount of pace that you're going to get for Wickens coming out of the corner because of a shallow entry to turn number 17 for Morgan Stanley, and Wickens is going to have the outside run. He'll take over the lead into turn 1. Robert Wickens running the Aero McLaren SP colors on the number 6 machine. Wickens now goes to the lead. Just a minor miscue going into turn number 16 for the first time, guys, and down into 17. That's when Stanley just couldn't get the run off the corner.
We're down to 4 laps to go right now with Robert Wickens on board, right behind Marshall, right ahead of Marshall Stanley. Anders Krone is back up to 3rd now after his little shunt going off a few seconds ago.
Yeah, he's made quick progress back up to the 3rd position. Not sure if we had issues for any other drivers around here. But yeah, back up to a podium position for Anders Krone. Josh Green remains in 4th position. He's about a second behind Krone, but he's got to deal with Alexander Van der Sant right now, who's on his tail.
Anderson back up to 8th now, by the way.
Kind of expected more, I think, out of Peter Dempsey. Hasn't been able to get into a really good groove. A lot of the racing we saw there was pretty aggressive. He's still a little ways behind Alexander Van der Sant right now, probably about 1.6 seconds back, trying to dig himself back in here. Number 5 of Josh Green having a pretty good run here. And Green running P4, like you said. He's only half second behind Anders Krone, and with the laps winding down, and you guys said that's the final spot on the podium. Green's got to dig if he wants to get back up there.
Absolutely, yeah, and that gap's still about 0.3 of a second. So Green's right there. He's within striking distance of Anders Krone. He's going to have to pull something off here because Anders has been one of the strongest drivers we've seen here tonight. Though Green has certainly shown some very, very good pace. I think got unlucky when he got involved in that incident with his team owner there earlier on in the race with Peter Dempsey, and then has been recovering ever since then. To pull off a podium here would be a pretty impressive recovery drive.
And it would keep the owner happy after getting involved with him earlier in the race, too. If you're going to beat the owner, you better beat him right.
I got to think there's going to be a post-race discussion there. Like, hey, man, what are you doing taking me out? We had a good race cars. Indeed, a lot of pressure here for Josh Green as he's trying to see if he can't work his way up and find a way by. In fact, he slips through, does he not, boys?
Yes, he
did. He does. There you go, Josh Green into... Yep, into podium positions there. Anders Krone won't let him go quite yet, but right now that 5 car looking just a tad bit faster, especially on that last lap. Ran about 0.6 of a second faster, and so yeah, right now looking like Josh Green should be secure in that 3rd position. But back up front, Robert Wickens has pulled out now a 1.5 seconds for Marshall Stanley. This 6 car pulling away,
and this will be a very popular win for Robert Wickens if he can hold on the last 2 laps.
Well, if Wickens is anything, it's consistent. Shown that over his career. Tremendous driver, as we know. Won the Formula BMW USA Championship, worked his way over to Europe, was able to get into the World Series by Renault, was on the door and knocking on it to try to get into the F1 world. That didn't work. Ended up moving to the DTM series for a number of years and had a really good career in DTM and had the opportunity to come back to run in the NTT IndyCar series with Arrow. At one point at that point, I guess, was Arrow Schmidt Peterson Motorsports. And again, watching what he's still able to do, the talent there for sure. And he is running strongly here right now. 1.8 seconds to lead for Wickens. You'll see the white flag rush next time by.
Absolutely. He'll round the last two corners, and we'll have Mark give us once again from Whiskey Cast.
The Whiskey Cast white flag, the last call. 1 lap to go as the white flag waves here at Barber Motorsports Park. Robert Wickens heading around for what looks like a fairly safe victory right now. Of course, anything could happen. He's got a 2.2-second lead over Marshall Stanley as we head down into the Alabama roller coaster.
A tremendous run, and Wickens was one of the guys we saw working his way forward. There's a good battle here as well. That'll be R.C. Enerson going at Trent Walco. Walco defends a little bit to the inside, but R.C. is going to put that red number 50 machine down to the bottom. Not able to get deep enough into the braking zone and rides up on the rumbles a little bit. And look at Trent Walco. Good job to get the outside run. A lot of momentum coming out of 5, so Trent Walco try to hold on to P7.
Yeah, great run through that hairpin for Trent Walco. Keeps the momentum on the outside line. Right now stays ahead of RC and gives RC not too many great options here because, again, we don't really have too many overtaking chances on this final stretch. But rounding the final couple of corners is going to be Robert Wickens. We had RC Enerson win race 1. And with 2 corners to go, looks like Robert Wickens will be race winner here at Barber Motorsports Park in race number 2 in these Indy Pro 2000 cars. Back to victory lane for this number 6.
Loop it around, coming down into turn number 1 to shut it down. There goes Marshall Stanley rather on the outside. Good run for Marshall, actually. Really solid lap times, able to keep himself onto the podium. Here go the boys dancing there now in turn number 1. Everybody getting on the throttle. Wickens with the win. Stanley in second. Josh Green third. Peter Dempsey fourth. And Trent Walco, I believe, rounding out the top 5. And good to see the Walco car there with the JWR logo on it. That's John Walco Racing. Jackson Lee coming up from deep in the field to finish 6th. Chad Frankenfield in 7th. Alexander Vanderzant 8th. Anders Krohn 9th. And Presley Soro rounding out guys out the top 10.
And that's the first time we've actually called Presley's name tonight.
Yeah, actually. Yeah, might have been, but yeah, good run for him, bringing it home in P10 there at the end of it, beating out the likes of R.C. Enerson, Stephen Wilson, who both got involved in incidents there. But, I mean, man, oh man, great racing here. I mean, we talked about it earlier, maybe Barber not the best track for overtaking, but I think when you invert the field like that, you get some great action.
I'd love to see more inverted fields like that in the real world just to see what kind of fun we could have with those.
Yeah, that was my favorite race for sure of the 2. We got a chance to see some drivers really going at it, some great passing down in turn 5. And I think, guys, not surprising how we kind of dictated the track itself. You saw how tough it was to pass. Even an R.C. Enerson, who was able to pull away to a massive lead in the opening race with open track, he struggled coming through the field. It's just a very, very tough track on which to pass.
For sure. And well, speaking of R.C. Enerson, we've got him in the booth with us, winner of race 1. Unfortunately, things didn't go quite to plan in race 2. R.C. Enerson joining us in the booth. Rob, take it away.
R.C., congratulations, man. The opening race, obviously a good one for you, able to stretch away. We talked throughout the broadcast about how hard it is to pass here at Barber Motorsports Park. It's tough coming from the tail of the field, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really tough because especially like people like Peter and whoever finished second and third were keeping up on pace. You need to be pretty drastically faster than somebody to be able to do it because the aero wash here, especially at Barber of all places, is horrible.
A little bit of obviously a pass there, trying to get by Stephen Wilson. He got into the rumbles on the inside. I think you had a good enough of a run to be able to beat him up over to turn number 7. But man, what were your thoughts when you saw him sideways in front of you coming out of 5?
Yeah, it's just a little too close to be able to react at all. I mean, I just went back and watched the replay, and I really wish I would have just turned right into the grass. But
Right.
But I went for the brakes and tried to go the inside, but I actually straightened him out. So you're welcome to Stefan. Yeah. But
There you go.
yeah, it kind of ruined a bit of our race, and then obviously right there at the end, just pushing it a little too hard with Trent. He also Trent Walco. He instructs with us at the racing school. So yeah, we have a lot of fun on iRacing.
Mark, you got anything for RC?
Yeah, let's talk about that livery tonight. How come you're running with the old classic Target livery instead of a Lucas Oil School of Racing livery?
Oh, I just didn't have any time to make one up. I mean, we go between the US 50,000 car and the Indy Pro car, and that was just the first one I clicked on trading paints on the first weekend of the Road to Indy series when we went at Indianapolis. So I was just running kind of the same thing. Didn't have a chance to go into the showroom and start making a paint, but I will for the next one.
Well, it still looked good. It was good to see that livery out in front. We haven't seen the Target car like that in a number of years, so it was great to see. And good to see you out in front, too, right now. How's your season in the real world shaping up?
Oh, we're working on things. It's always every driver's got the same thing. It's always a hustle to try and get something done, but we're working on it, and hopefully we'll be in 2021 either full season or at least a part-time deal. So we're working hard on it, but with the whole COVID deal, it makes it a lot tougher for us. But we're pushing. We'll never stop.
As I pointed out to Hinch on the webcast this afternoon, our live bourbon tasting with Hinch and Rossi, the Mega Millions jackpot is $750 million tonight, and I think the drawing is 2 hours away. There is still time to go out and get a lottery ticket for tonight, just in case.
Oh, I have one.
That'll buy a lot of race car.
Yeah, that's a few IndyCar seasons.
Well, RC, Rich, you got anything for RC?
Yeah, RC. I mean, I'd love to hear. I don't know if you ever drove these PM18s before, but I mean, just how accurately have they gotten these Road to Indy type cars? You've driven both this this Indy Pro 2000 as well as the USF 2000 here in iRacing. I think you've driven a lot of these tracks before. Just how well have they gotten this down?
I mean, iRacing in general, as far as actual tracks, they do a fantastic job on the tracks. I mean, the laser scans. I mean, I think I was at the Sebring track here, and I looked at one of the marks that turned 17. I was like, oh, that was me from way back before iRacing was a thing. And yeah, no, and then I haven't got to drive any of the newer stuff, the USF 2000, the new USF 2000 car. I only got to drive the old one, and then Indy Pro was actually the only step I skipped. I went straight to lights from USF 2000. So I mean, I couldn't tell you how accurate it is, but from hearing what some people have told me, it's pretty close. It's definitely a lot better than the Star Mazda, the legacy one.
We don't want to insult the Star Mazdas, though, of the world.
Hey, man, those are fun. That was a cool series. Bring back standing starts.
All right. Well,
well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, with that, we want to thank you so much for joining us, not only for this race, but joining us in the booth, man. It's great having you with us here, and congratulations on the win in race 1. Again, unfortunate things didn't really quite go your way in race 2, but you showed a lot of pace there in that car, and hoping to see some of that transfer over into our regular Cup and Xfinity series.
Yeah, I mean, I do well in the Xfinity cars. The Cup cars struggle with. But yeah, and we got the 24 coming up.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we got a lot of stuff going on here, but yeah, a lot of racing coming up through iRacing. But great job here tonight, and congratulations on the win in race 1, RC.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, RC.
All right, there you go. Race winner of race 1. Unfortunately, doesn't look like Robert Wickens will be joining us here tonight in the booth, or any of the other top 3 in any of the races. But I mean, what a great set of races there to kick off the Elite Racing Network.
Hey, Rich, can we get Chad to jump in and just tell us what's about the switch over to Elite Racing Network and since this is his baby?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I was just asking him about that because I would love to have him in here. It seems like he has to attend. He's just got a new puppy the past month or so, so he's been dealing with that, and being a puppy parent, as I'm sure you guys might know, is definitely a full-time job. But
that's a classic race car thing. We have a lot of trouble trying on IndyCar radio trying to get interviews with guys after the races because they got to go take care of their puppies in the RVs. So I get it. It happens all the time.
And we got a 4.5-month-old pup here at the house too, so I know the drill.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, guys, I'll tell you this, Rish, Mark, a lot of fun getting a chance to work with you guys. I consider it a privilege to be able to be here with you guys on the very first episode, the very first race on the Elite Racing Network. It was a lot of fun. We had some good racing. Couple of winners we've watched race over the last number of years, right? R.C. Enerson and Robert Wickens. Been a pleasure to me to watch them race when they were kids in karts and all the way through the ranks. So cool to see them get a couple of victories here today.
Well, Rob, it's been a pleasure to work with you too. I've enjoyed your work for many, many years on IndyCar Radio as well as the Road to Indy, and it's an honor to work with you. And Rish has been my partner all season long on the Trucks Series races Sunday night. We've got one more to call this weekend, don't we?
Absolutely. We've got the season finale coming up. We got Final Four duking it out for a championship. So that's always going to be great racing. That one will be on the speed51.com Twitch channel, so make sure you guys are checking that out. That will be one of our final races. This next week, I believe, is where we'll be hanging stuff up with our Speed 51, and we finish our transition over to Elite Racing Network to start the full 2021 season. So, I mean, a lot of great things in the pipeline for Elite Racing Leagues and all of that, the Elite Racing Network as well. So, once again, to everyone who's viewing or watched this event, which seemed like we had up to about 30 people at one point, thank you all so much for tuning in. It was an absolute pleasure to bring you the action for myself. It's an honor to be in the booth with both you, Mark, and you, Rob. I mean, great stuff to learn from both of you with so much experience in the broadcasting industry, and myself interested in going into that industry as well. So, I mean, this has been a great experience, and thank you guys so much for joining us for this inauguration of the Elite Racing Network.
Rish, you still have time to change careers.
Don't do it. Stay in this deal. It's a lot of fun, man.
I kid, of course. I kid.
It's a lot of fun. Hey, Rich, thank you so much.
All right. Well, from all of us here at the Elite Racing Network, in the booth, myself, Rishabh Khosla, Rob Howden, and Mark Gillespie, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been the Mega Driver 86 Road to Indy series by the Elite Racing Leagues, and we will see you guys all next week.